And tonight I'm talking about something interesting. It is the origin of hip hop, pre-recording. What is the true story of how rap or hip hop music got its start in New York City before it was on record?
Russell Simmons says, we cannot do a documentary about the masterminds of hip hop without the foundation. One of the key voices should be Jerry Robach. I learned from him, and he, for sure, not me, was the greatest promoter of hip hop pre-recordings.
Yeah, well, you can't mention, for any obviously old heads or people who have been around 2-3 generations since hip hop began. A lot of younger people, since this is the predominant music in the world, at least they know his name, but he should be given all of the credit for the origin, for his hard work, and really taking it from nothing to being a multi-billion-dollar industry. I don't know if it would exist without him. So, you definitely got to give him credit.
Jerry, there have been many stories and countless interviews over the years on the origins of hip hop and rap music and how it got started before it was on records. So what's the true origin?
Well, there's been so much debate. I mean, there's college classes on this. There's been books written. There's interviews I've seen on TV. And of course, all over YouTube, there's people with their opinions, people who weren't there, people who heard this, people who somebody told them this. And, most of it is just inaccurate because it's hearsay. So this is just my story. I was there. I helped create it. I helped make it happen from the onset. So even though there's a prelude to this, there's a beginning before there was a beginning, that'll be another episode. But what I want to do today is tell you, before hip hop was on record, before the Sugar Hill Gang came along, what happened? What made hip hop begin in its true origins? So first of all, I want to say that, people give a lot of credit to the Bronx. People say, oh, hip hop started in the Bronx. I would kind of disagree with that. I would give the Bronx its credit, its props, because, a lot of the street dancing came out from the Bronx. A lot of the outside parties that were in the parks up in the projects, yes, that started up in the Bronx. But the era before that was something that I want to begin to talk about, and how we got to the DJs and how we got to the hype men. And it really comes out of parties, which were in the disco era or even pre-disco era. And people used to play records on a record player, and it was a 45. There weren't even 12 inches then. And primarily in that party era, everybody played slow records. People used to dance to slow records. And then fast records started to become a little more popular. You had, of course, the Motown sound. You had the Stax sound with Isaac Hayes and people like that. And then, as you got into the Philly sound, which was more upbeat, everybody from the OJs, MFSB, so many of those acts, people were then dancing more off of these records. And then, of course, we know disco was beginning in the early 70s. So my part of it was, I was a promoter. I was promoting clubs, and then started to promote discos as early in high school in the early 70s. But 1973, I began to be a promoter on my own using the name Jerry Productions when I was a student, a freshman at City College of New York. And as I began to give these parties, the purpose was to have people come back over and over again, to build up a following, to build up a crowd. And it wasn't just your party, it wasn't just where you were having it at, but the DJ became an important part. Why? Because you wanted the dance floor to stay crowded. You wanted people to come to the party, hear good music, and dance, because dancing was becoming popular, especially as disco was starting to take off. So the DJ was important, because in the era prior to that, you would put on a record, and you would play the record to the end, and it would stop, and then people would get off the dance floor. And if they put on another good record, you'd have to get on the dance floor again and have to go to the girl and say, hey, you want to dance again? Or go to another girl, which is like, if you think of it today, it was corny, but that's the way it was. And I remember going to parties in that era. I don't mean a house party, I mean parties in church basements and so forth. But now you have the two turntables, you're playing one record, you're going to the next record, and you want to keep the crowd on the dance floor. Okay? So that was the beginning of the DJ becoming popular. A guy who could go from one record to the next and keep that crowd dancing. And if you had a DJ that could do that and you put his name on the flyer, you could bet, besides your name, which was mine, was Jerry Productions, and the location where you were having your party, you would have a big crowd. Now, there were popular DJs at this time from all over New York City. In Brooklyn, you had DJ Plummer, you had Maboya. In the Bronx, you had Pete DJ Jones. You had Richard Hart, Michael P. Reggie Wells is another DJ I started. You had the Disco Twins. You had Carl TNT. You had somebody who was Grandmaster Flowers, way before Grandmaster Flash.
Were very prevalent in the tri-state area. Were you aware of those crews? No. And did they play with you at all in the clubs?
No, never.
So African Love, Downbeat,
but never was in the in a space that they was at. Oh no,
no way, no shape, form, or fashion. Okay.
I could tell you for a sound system is on the U.S. side. That the Smith Brothers, respect them. Soul Brothers from out of Brooklyn, Japan, Nell Gwynns, respect them. I don't know if it's a Jamaican crew, but I know the Soul Brothers play Nell Gwynns at 42nd Street. And they have brothers like Plummer, LaBoya, Flowers, and the Disco Twins. And those boys was really into technology and big, heavy sound. With me, I was just a guy who liked to hear my sound good, clear, for my audience. I was not a fanatic engineer or that. I'm based